Howdy, and welcome back to You've Got People Problems, the podcast where we tackle the leadership challenges that no one wants to talk about, but every business faces. I'm your host, Mel Ortiz with the Activate Human Capital Group, and this is episode 30. Today we're talking about what happens when companies and employees stop growing together, with my guest, Katie McConnell Olson of Growthwise Search Partners. Katie leads a fractional recruiting firm that partners with businesses to find, screen, and place talent in a way that goes so far beyond traditional headhunting. She shares a powerful analogy about pants that don't fit anymore and another about a Swiss Army knife. You will love her practical wisdom and how it mirrors what happens when roles or relationships inside organizations no longer align. Katie also explains how leaders can spot those signals early on and make better decisions when it comes to hiring, development, and retention. If you've ever struggled with mismatched expectations or wondered how to ensure your team continues to grow with you, this episode gives you a framework for thinking differently about recruiting and engagement. Let's dive in. Howdy, I'm Mel Ortiz, and this is You've Got People Problems. Today, I'm so excited to be here with Katie McConnell Olson, who's someone I've worked with for many years, who is a master in the recruiting space, has an amazing lens on culture, and we both have a fondness for PI. So, Katie, tell us a little bit about Growthwise Search Partners and what we should know about what you're working on today.
What I'm working on, many people problems. That's why we're here. There's always people problems. So thank you for the introduction. Katie McConnell Olson, Growthwise Search Partners is my firm. And we like to say we are fractional recruiting partners. So we are not that resume sales shop contingent recruiter that you might know and dislike. We are more like a fractional talent partner for companies that don't have an internal talent arm and need kind of a bolt-on solution to help solve people problems in the finding and screening employee space.
Amazing. Well, if you don't know me, my name is Melissa Ortiz, and my focus is really on getting the right people in the right seats, helping make sure they're engaged and that they're thriving and supporting each other in their teams. So Katie and I work really closely together because I do not do headhunting, recruiting, or any of that. I'm just helping clients really filter through those candidates. And so I just really appreciate Katie's lens on the world. And we were chatting before this about a topic that's really important and keeps coming up in my world is the fact that when companies and people don't grow together, what happens? And actually, I want you to start, Katie, with the recent post you made about pants, because I think it's such an appropriate analogy that we should just level set and start there, if you will.
Yes. And I had mentioned, I posted on LinkedIn, which if you follow me, you know this. If you don't, you should, if you like a little bit of controversy. I love to kind of throw a pebble into the pond to make a ripple here and there with my posts, which you'll find are sort of all geared towards business owners that have people problems. And I used an example of a pair of pants. So I don't know about you, Melissa, but I feel like my clothes sometimes shrink in the closet. You know, it's definitely not me, it's the clothes, they're getting smaller. But, you know, I go to put on a pair of jeans and they don't fit anymore. Like they're too small. Like what has happened here? You know, and I have a little bit of a fit, but I take them back off and I put them to the side and I'm not going to wear them because they don't fit. You know, I got to go get some pants that fit. And so because I look through the lens of hiring for everything, I started thinking about how this shows up in businesses. Well, that happens with employees, you know, where we try to make something fit that just doesn't fit anymore. And with my pants, I'm not going to squeeze into them. I mean, sure, they're going to cover my butt, but they're not going to be comfortable for me. They're not going to make me look good. Yet, you know, we see the same thing with an employee. Maybe you outgrow them. Sure, they're going to cover your butt, but they're not making you look good, you know, and they're really uncomfortable for you. And it's probably time to think about getting new pants. So I was using that as an analogy that we often outgrow our pants. I think maybe I did outgrow those. And we often outgrow our employees too. So why are we sort of sucking in and, you know, contorting ourselves to make something work that just doesn't work anymore when it's okay to say, you know what, things have changed.
So here's a quote from a discussion I had yesterday in response to that question. Because he's a really nice guy.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There was in a stakeholder interview. We were working on preparing for an employee engagement survey and making sure we were asking the right things. And they said, probably a sixth of our organization we've outgrown. And they said what the owner doesn't realize when she says things like, he's a really nice guy, is that when we keep around the people who aren't meeting the performance standard, who's picking up the slack? It's your best people. Well, that's fine, except that your best people are overburdened. And now we're starting to become resentful to the company we've
Yes.
worked at for a very long time.
Of course
But
he's
we're,
nice. The other people are doing his job. They're less nice. They're mad. Yeah. And then you have retention issues with your good people and not your bad people. And that just perpetuates the cycle of C players that aren't who you want to be. Yeah, I mean, I think question number one, just like I'm asking myself, how come these pants don't fit anymore? Is it the pants? They probably haven't shrunk in the closet. It's probably me. So in the organization, why haven't these people grown with you? Do you not have a growth path? Are you not being honest with them and giving them real feedback and holding them accountable? Because if you're not, they don't know. So you're kind of at fault for that. And not that that means that it's not time for a change, but if you're continuously in a churn situation, you have to prepare for turnover.
and I think that goes back to one of my core beliefs is that no one wants to suck at work. And if we don't tell them that they're not performing well and we need them to perform better and help them get to that place, it's not going to solve the problem by putting a new pair of pants on because it's just going to be a continual cycle. And
Totally.
so we have
Yeah.
to fix that. But also sometimes we really have outgrown people. I was talking to somebody about a COO that the company has grown significantly and they really have outgrown that leader. And so the question is, how do we show respect for that person and how far they've taken us? They actually have a path for this guy. They want to put him in the family office and have him manage some things there. It's a smaller job, but he's been outgrown. We actually saw that with the head of HR that you and I were working with last year. The company had outgrown him.
Yeah.
And what it does is it distracts the rest of the leadership team if they're at that level because they're not keeping up. So they're just becoming a distraction. It's like if we wear the pants that are too small, it's hard to focus on anything else.
They're
You're
sucking the
physically
life out of you.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it stunts your growth too. When you're going, I want to keep growing, I want to keep moving forward. Well, we can't because we have a weak link. So I was just at a client a few days ago having the same conversation, and we started with interviewing the team. And they know that they have problems. They know that they have things that are frustration points. So I came in from the outside to sit down with them and ask them, where are the rubs? What do you do every day? What do you really like to do? What's your superpower? What do you want to be doing every day? And some things that came out of that were you've got two people in the wrong chair that aren't showing up and being motivated, and they're not engaged because they don't want this job. And frankly, the job that they want is not the job that you need that the business needs for them. And they're here because they know that. They're here because they don't like change, or who wants to go look for a new job, or, they've got bills to pay, not because their heart is really in it. So let's figure out new roles for them, or let's help them find a role where they can be in their place, in a better place. Generally, I always say nobody should be fired as a surprise unless it's a, integrity act or something. But if it's a performance issue, it should not be a surprise. And honestly, it's a gift to set you free to go be somewhere that you can really thrive.
Yeah. In the entrepreneurial, in the EO group we talk about freeing up people's future because it really is. If I'm holding you back from something, I'm not doing you a service by keeping you in a role where you're not thriving. I'm enabling you to not try the next thing. And
Yes.
that's,
Yeah.
if you
And
really care about that person.
in the case of this client situation, that person happens to be the leader of the department. So everybody under them that needs growth is being stunted right now because they're not getting what they need because they have a disengaged leader that is showing up late, leaving early, doesn't really care, doesn't want to do the work, isn't teaching them anything. It's kind of trickling to everybody and they're feeling it. It's the pants that don't fit, but, the person was really nice and it's hard to make changes. And I'll tell you, we get that call a lot. And one of the main reasons why I hear business leaders don't make a change is because, well, it's a pain. It's a pain to hire. Well, That's what my firm does. So luckily I have a solution for that. It is a pain. I can handle that pain for you. My team does that. It's the lack of options and the lack of education of what is out there. Well, is there something else out there? Maybe this is as good as it gets. Maybe I have to settle. I hear, well, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And I'm like, if the devil is working for you, you should evaluate other options. Just saying.
Yeah. I actually want to go back for a second. So you talked about the supervisor, the leader of this department is the problem. The thing that really makes me nervous as someone who focuses on employee engagement is what we find is that the manager is the frame through which the employees see the organization. And so if they see someone tolerating that behavior, so now we're condoning and enabling that, and we're not, by definition, really focusing on A players, we're enabling these C players. So they all see it. But also, usually those people have a really negative view on the organization, which is part of the reason they're disengaged. And so that all flows downhill to them. And it's incredibly unlikely that you will be more engaged than your manager is in the data. It's just doesn't happen. And so then you have this cascading effect. And how much is that costing you? Depends on how big the department is and how important the work that they're doing is. A sales, because that could cause a real problem. And then when that person finally leaves, it's like this breath of fresh air and people say thank you. And then they rush to fill the gap that you were petrified that person would leave, because the employees who are left are so grateful because they saw it too. And
they know before you do. If you are the business leader, they know. They already know. They knew before you knew. Yeah. I've had it in my own organization also. And after, and I wanted to do the right thing and I wanted to help. And at the end of it all, one of my employees said once to me, you should have let her go a long time ago. Like, I said, well, why didn't you say anything to me? But they knew before I did. And I guarantee you, if you're listening right now and this is resonating and you have this in your company, which if you have more than 10 people, you probably have this, they know. They already know. You're not hiding anything. Yeah.
So talk to me about this challenge. I often talk with leaders who say, well, if I terminate this person, if I follow through with this path, I make sure it's not a surprise, I tell them they're not meeting my expectations, I hold them accountable, and then it ends in termination. What if they take some of my great employees with them?
Yeah.
That is a huge fear I hear.
I mean, what if? I guess I don't so much, and I don't find that to be worrisome, because if this person is not leading them, not mentoring, not giving them guidance, and frankly, we all want to be held accountable. Even us business leaders want someone to hold, we're like, can we just get an admin that can tell me what to do and hold me accountable during the day, right? We hire a lot of those roles. We all want to be held accountable. If that person isn't doing any of that for them, are they really your top player? I mean, they're hungry for that. So if they leave along with that leader, were they really your great employee? Because those top performers are hungry for that. With this situation I was telling you about with this client we're working with right now, I'm not worried about that at all with the subordinate, because that individual is hungry for mentorship and leadership and growth. That person is not a retention risk. And we had a very honest conversation about that when I was, visiting that client earlier this week. So it will improve everything. You brought up an interesting comment. You said the cost of, how much is it costing you? I hear all the time, well, the cost of vacancy, the cost of turnover. We all talk about the cost of putting a butt in a seat, our fee plus the training and the blah, 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 and it's 3x the salary. What's the cost of complacency? What's the cost of, mistakes? Especially if it's accounting. If it's accounting, it's a commission error report, it's a bill that got paid and a vendor invoice that, you missed a discount on. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. If it's HR, it's a massive risk. If it's risk management, if it's anything related to safety, I mean, there is such a massive cost, and we're missing that little death by 1,000 paper cut cost of, well, they don't come in until 9. Well, there's a little bit of employee disengagement. I mean, you probably have the stats on what employee engagement costs.
It's crazy. The other cost I think that we don't account for, because we're just busy being busy as leaders, is the cost of my time. And I'm managing this, especially if they're at the leadership level. And I'm spending all this excess time with my person who's not performing. but I'm not mentoring and supporting my A players who could grow exponentially if they got more of my attention. Meanwhile, I'm just burning time. We're not communicating. There's all this miscommunication with one player who's not getting it, but the other ones that are getting it, I'm ignoring them because they've got it. They don't need me, but they desperately need you. And their gains are exponential because they're so tuned in. They're so hungry. And when you lean into them, that's really the opportunity cost. I think that is nearly impossible to calculate
Yeah,
because you don't know
that's
if
a
you're not
great point. And the cost of your time to be tied up in those kinds of problems, I mean, your time is worth more. Dang it, go away.
If you're
Sorry.
listening to this and not watching it, there is
Edit
a
that
cat that
out.
is barging in on our video.
They for those of you that haven't seen a cat's behind, there you go. Thanks for tuning in. The cost of that.
Yeah, that opportunity cost, the distraction.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And just the enablement of someone who can't keep up. Meanwhile, you've stopped having leadership team meetings because they were so ineffective. And the leader says, well, I just do one-on-ones now. But now we're not collaborating as a team. And their heart is in the right place, but business needs them to make a business decision.
If you're a visionary leader, your time is the most valuable when your calendar is empty. Because if you are a visionary, you meddle and you come up with ideas and you figure out how to say, well, we could do this and we could do that. And what about this? You're not in that mode if you're putting out fires and you're holding a fire hose. But if you have free time on your hands, you're going to come up with ideas and you're going to innovate and you're going to strategize. So your time is the most valuable when your calendar is empty, because that's when you create opportunity. So if you're consistently seeing that you've got one person that you're having a lot of conversations with, you already know. Your team knows, you know. And if they take one of your people with them, then they do. I mean, nothing's certain. And everything is temporary. And, there's a solution for every problem. I saw a meme the other day that said, if you have a problem that has a solution that you can achieve with action, you don't have a problem.
You don't have a problem. I saw the same.
Yeah. I was like.
Yes. I had a leader I was working with who had a 20-year veteran employee, high performing individual, but he was a jerk, just a jerk. And finally, by the time he decided to terminate the person, they were stealing from the organization. They were actually using employees from the organization to in their own business on the side. And these poor employees, the place that they were put in when their direct supervisor was like, yeah, you need to come work on this project of mine so I can make money, but they're paying workers' comp, your compensation, the fuel for your vehicles. It was really, really toxic. And finally, the leader said, okay, I guess it's time. And he was petrified. There were 4 different employees out of the 50-person organization that this man was going to take with him. Not one single person went. They knew who this guy was. He was a jerk. He was a bully, a professional bully, and that's how he got things done. And it was amazing how quickly the groundswell of energy to just close that gap up happened. And it just, like you said, they see it before we do. They see it on the daily. They feel it viscerally. And then we have to find a path forward, because enabling that behavior is not only expensive, it's painful, and it's wreaking havoc within our organization. So
there is, of course, a book. It has to have come out in the early 2000s, The No Asshole Rule. Are you familiar with it? It's all about that. It's about the organizational credo of no assholes here, and what that looks like. And I'll tell you, and if you have a sales team, this, it's usually a salesperson that makes a ton of money for the organization. So the rule is, well, we can't get rid of Jim because Jim makes, revenue for the company. Okay, but Jim runs off everybody. He's one bad comment away from a sexual harassment lawsuit. He doesn't log anything in the CRM. He doesn't show up to meetings. He's above the law. Nobody likes him. And what's the cost of that?
Oh, by the way, his sales orders have so many mistakes that we've got so much rework on the back end.
Right. But clients love him and he brings us revenue. He does today, but if Jim, got mowed down by a bus, which could happen, and one of your other employees could be driving it because no one likes him, then what are you going to do? What's your backup plan? Because if all of your resiliency is gone because it's tied up in somebody that's a jerk, you have people problems. Wouldn't it be better to have somebody that is nice and plays well with others, that is more holistic for you, than have the extra short-term revenue if it's bad revenue? We all want good revenue.
Especially it represents the brand that you want to be building. Not
just a revenue-focused brand, but are the people that work here happy to be here? Are they loyal to the business owner? Which, I think I was telling you before we started recording, I was out at a client earlier this week and I told the client, he goes, well, what'd you find? I said, you've built an amazing company of very, very loyal people that love you, that are here because of your leadership. So go home at night and feel really, really good about that. And he goes, I don't feel good about anything right now. I kind of hate my job. So you've built this amazing business. You've got a couple hundred employees that love you and think you're an incredible leader. What are you talking about? He's got a couple bad eggs that are just not being
sucking the
teammates
life
for him.
Out of him.
They're the bad pants. And it's like you've built this to have freedom. You've taken out second mortgages on your house. You've taken tons of risk. You've given up a lot to build this. You deserve to come to work every day and be happy. And these are we can help you. This is a couple turns of the knob to get some changes in place from a people perspective that can really make a huge difference in how you show up for yourself every day.
Yes. It just sucks the life out of leaders, and they feel this obligation. Like, there's no lifetime employment expectation, even in California. And that's hard. So
I think we're all afraid of turnover, though, right? We're all afraid of turnover because turnover is painful. I'm going to have to now cover for their job, and then I have to find someone new, and then everyone has to learn them, and I have to train them. And so I think, the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Have your resiliency plan, have your what if this with all your key players. Here's my matrix of what happens if this person leaves, what happens if this person, where do the accounts go, what shifts, who covers the backup. Have that plan in place to give yourself a little bit of security that, okay, I already know what I'm going to do if that happens. Yes, it's still going to be unfortunate and it's going to be a pain, but at least I have a plan. I'm not just flying blind. And, I think the fear of the unknown keeps us from doing hard things.
And also the time commitment, right? If I'm already busy and I'm going to make a change, I'm guilty of it. I had an admin for 3 years who was good. We kind of ebbed and flowed. And I've had so many conversations. I get frustrated. I'm like, and then we talk a little later and like, it's okay. We're doing okay. And I didn't want to change. This person was so integrated into my personal and professional life. And I really liked her. So I didn't want to let her down. And finally, we put together a performance improvement plan, the second one, almost exactly a year after the first one. And she said to me, it's probably time. And it was like this huge relief. She did the hard work that I should have done, but it was just not bad enough. She was a really good human. She wanted very much to help me. I think I had outgrown her. And so finally I agreed. She gave me like 3 weeks of transition time. I found someone new who got on board so fast. She's doing great. I'm
amazing, by the way. Amazing. Yes.
And I went, I knew better, but I didn't do it because it was the time. I just couldn't bear to spend the time to get them involved in all the things they needed to be successful. And I should have done it. I should have done it sooner.
It's the pants. I think if we took off the pants that didn't fit and set them on the shelf and they screamed back at us, you suck, you're fat, you're never going to fit into me again, you're the problem, you're such a disappointment, we would be inclined to squeeze into them because we would feel bad. And I think, something that I've had to learn as a leader, I've watched with really successful leaders that I look at as mentors, you're going to be the bad guy sometimes. And you have to have a thick enough skin to say, my obligation is for my business. I am the fiduciary of this business to generate revenue results and forward, execute on the vision and the mission. And if that doesn't align, it's fine. I think we try so much to not be the bad guy, and it doesn't serve our businesses.
And honestly, and I do so much of my work in the EOS space, that's the real value of an integrator. Often is they come in and they're really comfortable being the bad guy. And so then the visionary has to be the bad guy less often. But the things still happen. And honestly, that's one of the biggest values of a good integrator is they force your hand in making the hard decisions, and they say, I'll do it for or with you. I can be bad cop, you can be good cop, and we'll still rip off the Band-Aid. And
visionary leaders are terrible accountability people. Terrible. Like, we don't want to tell people how they're bad. We want to be Santa Claus. We want to walk through the office and give out gift cards and attaboys and motivate people and then go on to the next thing. We don't want to hold people accountable. And it's hard. It's a weak muscle for most visionary leaders.
So can we get stronger as visionaries? Yes. But also there's often second person who can just do that, who's really good at it.
100%.
And they want to be accountable. They want to show you the results that they can achieve. And they don't want to be the front man, the front woman. They want to be behind the scenes and make a great business. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I love that model so much, because it takes some of the expectation off the visionary of something they're not well suited to do anyway.
Totally. I love it when leaders say, well, we need someone that's a Swiss Army knife. It's like, do you though? Because so if we're camping out in the wilderness and we have no resources, then that would be great. But in my kitchen, am I opening a bottle of wine with a corkscrew on a Swiss Army knife? No, I'm using the fancy pants one that has all the skills and the things, and it works every time. Am I cutting up my vegetables with a Swiss Army knife? No, I'm using a chef's knife because it's trained for the job and it works and it's the right tool for the job. So there's a time and a place for Swiss Army knife, but I always laugh when people tell me that, because I'm like, do you though? Because how useful is that really?
Oh my gosh. Katie with the quotes always between the pants, the Swiss Army knife, and the devil those are my 3 takeaways for the day.
There you go. My team always laughs at me because they're like, you and these analogies, you crack me up. Like, I just think about this stuff. Can't help myself.
That's in the world. I love it. Okay, so let's go back to, we've outgrown an employee. Are there roles that are more frequently that you see this in than others, or is it just widespread across the organization?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple. Admin, as you mentioned. What got you there when you have one employee or you're a very small team, and often I was talking with a client earlier today and I said, well, it's extra octopus tentacles, right? It's an extension of you to get more done. And they're a little bit of a Swiss Army knife, which is great when it's the only tool you have. And then when you need something a little bit more specialized, that person often doesn't grow with the business. They are a Swiss Army knife and you really need three tools, right? So admin, I think, is a big one. Accounting is another one where you might start with a bookkeeper. Maybe you're on QuickBooks, you don't have a lot of volume and your ARAP, then you get moving and you've got a lot more invoice volume, your revenue volume ideally and hopefully goes up, your invoicing happen, and then you outgrow a bookkeeper and you need kind of more of that controller structure. You need, again, you've got the Swiss Army knife accountant and now you need more specialized tools for the job. Sales would be another one. I think we need a hunter. Okay, well, now we need a hunter that can also be a farmer because we need to tend to these relationships that we've built so we can keep these clients happy. Well, now we've got one person doing both jobs and they're supposed to go hunt, but they're also supposed to tend to existing accounts. And, now we kind of need 2 different people for that.
Yeah. The one that comes to mind as I'm thinking about my EO group is so often you start and it's your mom or your wife or your best friend, somebody's doing the books. And when the business outgrows that, it's like, oh, am I telling this person that's close to me that they're not good enough? That's a hard one.
Yeah.
But it gets critical really fast, and usually, and often they're saying, "You've outgrown me. You need more."
Right, but to your point, nobody wants to suck at their job. When you're not meeting the company needs anymore. You either know that because you're perpetually behind and you're taking work home and you can't catch up and you can't catch your breath and you're just going, I need more resources. And, it's hard for people to have that white flag, especially those of us that like to do all the things and don't want to let people down. But you know, as the business owner, when that happens too, you feel it.
I think one of the things we all suffer from is there's never a good time to get better. We're all busy being busy. And the time to level up, especially for employees who are busy, they're taking work home, they don't feel like they can go take a training program. I think that's one of my favorite things about AI. It's like, how do I get better at this? I need to learn shorthand. What's a better way to do this? Like, it's training is more accessible than it's ever been. It doesn't have to be a COO training through Berkeley. It can be like, I have a CEO I work with who is obsessed with ChatGPT. He runs all of his questions and frustrations through GPT. And it's like this great thought part. It's like a therapist slash
Yes.
executive coach for him. And it's real time. It's in the minute when he needs it. It's 10 o'clock at night when he can't stop thinking about it. And, we have employees who are scared of AI. And then we have ones who are embracing it and just start outpacing their peers because they're finding the resources they need. And I know it's scary to ask for the help and to say, I'm behind. I can't keep up. But if you don't, you're making yourself miserable.
Yeah. 100%. My brain's just turning because there's so many different directions to go with that. It has to start with the company. I think it's a culture of, 1% better every day. What can we do today to be a little bit better today than we were yesterday? If we're going to keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, we're not going to do it. It just becomes this big snowball of, well, I'm going to go to a once a year conference and all of a sudden I'm going to get better. I'm not going to go to the gym once and come home with abs. Like, I have to be consistent. I have to put in the reps every day. And it can be, a walk around the block every day. It could be little things, right? So how are we as leaders bringing that to our organization? Just to go back to growth, I think it's interesting when one day a company says, well, John and I have outgrown each other. John's not really growing with the company. My first line of questioning is, well, what happened and when did it happen? Because it was a progression. You started going this way, they started going this way, like something happened. And my next question is, well, what did you do about it? Because if you let it fester and you were complacent, that's a culture problem, right? Does it mean that it's terminal? Maybe, maybe not. Can it be saved? Probably not. Usually it can at that point.
By the time they've called one of us, it usually can't be saved because they're so frustrated. They have negative override, right? That's the psychological term where everything you do is irritating to me because I've let it go so far. It's like you're jumping on my last nerve. The way you chew your gum, the way you close your desk drawers, like I'm just irritated. And that's so much harder to come back from than
it can do no right.
Yeah,
for sure. Put a target, kind of you've put a spotlight on them that they can do no right. Yeah, by the time they call us, it's okay. We're probably going to move forward with the search, but maybe they want some outside validation on that. And, I'm going to ask the hard questions. Well, what have you done? What's your ownership in it? What have you been doing to bring leadership that we're going to get better every day and we're going to grow every day? And whether that's even a accountability conversation of, are you hitting your metrics, or a defined job description, which you and I both know a lot of companies don't have. I don't care about the sit, stand, lift 400 pounds HR job description. It's important, not the hat I wear. I care about that lane. What is clarity on your job role? What do you do? What is your core thing that you do that you need to do here to keep the company going? And making sure everybody knows that. And believe it or not, there's a lack of clarity there. And then within the confines of that, what's one thing we can focus on that we can keep getting better at? Like, you don't go to the gym and work all your body parts every day all the time, right? You're like, I'm going to work on my calves or whatever, and you work on that, and then that's how you get results. The same thing with employees. Hey, I want you to be better about logging in the CRM system. We're going to work on that. If we give somebody an accountability metric with 10 things on it and they suck at all of them and we want them to improve all of them, we might as well just fire them.
Can I just take a moment and praise you? This is the reason I send so many of my clients to you, because this is not, your team comes with, I think you shouldn't hire us. I think you should keep this person, is the first reaction. And if we really, really need to go to that level, that is not something that is in your best interest, quite frankly, but it's in the client's best interest. And I think that shows so much of the culture that you've built and the mindset that you have. And that's the reason I feel so confident in sending people to you, because the right reasons, it's the right thing for the employee. If we can save their job, help their performance, they can get better and they can provide better service because they already know our clients, they know our team, they know our culture, they know our value. If we can save them, great. And if we can't, we have a backstop. And so I don't meet very many people that operate the way you do. And I just want you to hear how much that means to me. I don't know if I have said that to you before, but it means a lot in the way that you.
My company, it means a lot to me to hear that. I mean, there's so much ick on recruiting. Oh, recruiters, and I'll tell people we're a business consultant. We're not a traditional headhunter. Our fee model is different, give the whole spiel. And then it's, oh, so you're a headhunter. I'm like, well,
yes,
kind of, but no, and we're not, trying to sell you a resume. We're trying to solve a business problem. And we're business consultants helping you solve a business problem. And if that is, the best solution is the most streamlined and the most cost effective with the fastest turnaround time. And sometimes that is a hire, and oftentimes it's not. And sometimes you have to exhaust your options and know there has to be accountability there so that we don't repeat the same mistakes, right? I'm not interested in making the same hire over and over and over again year after year. While it would be great for my reoccurring revenue, we don't want to, no one wants to build Lego houses and watch someone else take them apart right in front of their face. We want to build lasting systems so that clients can grow and they can call us back and say, that hire was so awesome. We've grown and now we have more openings because of the imprint revenue-wise that made. And now we want 4 more. Cool. We want all of that work. We don't want this revolving door of turnover, because where we end and much of your work begins, there's a lot of accountability and it is a heavy sword leading a business.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. So I want to be cognizant of time. I think we should come to, is there anything else as we think about outgrowing employees? I want to touch on the flip side. So I'm an employee and I'm starting to feel like the business is outpacing me. Any tips for someone sitting in that seat? Because I don't think that's a surprise. We know.
As an employee? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's having communication, communication is always the answer to everything, right? That's just what it is. Go have a conversation with your leader. Hey, I feel like I'm missing the mark on this and life is kind of running me over a little bit. There's a gap between, I think, where you need me to be and where I am. You're probably not going to, because you're afraid that you're going to get yourself fired. So you're not going to have the conversation 9 times out of 10, which is too bad that we don't have cultures where we can discuss these things in organizations, because it does build loyalty. So if you're lucky enough to work for an amazing boss that will say, cool, let's have a conversation about it. Thank you so much. I'm not going to fire you. I value you. And you're probably right. Let's problem solve this. Can it be bridged with training? Can it be bridged with a fractional? I'll use accounting as an example. Let's say that you're the bookkeeper and you've gone, hey, you're asking me for more than I can do. You're asking me for financial modeling that is just outside of my bookkeeping skill set. Can we call in a fractional CFO 10 hours a month that knows how to build these models, that has them, that can mentor me a little bit and augment the company without just, firing me and bringing on someone else? Let's create resiliency in our organization that brings more skills to the table. So I think it depends on what the gap is, and why you're outgrowing the business, or why the business is outgrowing you, pardon.
I think the thing that comes to mind for me, I think that's really helpful. One thing, it's culture, yes, of the company, but I think it's also a cultural norm that people don't have a lot of courage. They don't have courage in their personal relationships to maybe end them when they should or address issues. They don't have courage at work to ask for what they need that would help them be more effective. Like, I have so many in my employee engagement surveys. Often people will say, we'll ask an open-ended question about what one resource would help you be more effective at work. I often hear like a second monitor. I'm always got a spreadsheet and an email and all these documents. I need more real estate. And that's like an $80 ask. But right. Have they asked their manager even for that? Sometimes not. But I think the thing I would love to say to, if you're in that space or feel like you're beginning to go there, is have the to an owner, or a manager, the courage to come forth and say, hey, I think I'm falling behind, especially if you have any ideas about what to do about it, is so proactive and brave. you're not going to lose your job. And if you're worried you're going to lose your job, like, what's more likely? You do nothing and you keep falling behind and you lose your job, or you do something, you take a risk and you
Right.
get better, and who knows where it leads. But I love to play the worst case scenario game, because if that's really the worst case scenario, what do I have to lose?
And
Um,
frankly, to your point, it would be better to not be a surprise. So if you have outgrown the company, do you think that the company wants to just kick you out on the street and then have to do your job? No, we would much rather have you tell us, you know what? We should probably come up with a plan if we can't come up with a solution. So let's make it a 4, 5, 6 month runway. Let's figure out what we really need. I will help be a part of that process. In the meantime, you can support me in finding a new role. You can be a reference. We'll leave it all above board. And we see that happen very successfully, oftentimes with certain types of roles, especially if a company is, an owner's winding down and retiring. There's so much runway. Those companies never just show up one day and they're like, all right, kids, I'm retiring. We're shutting the doors today. There's a lot of notice for employees so that they can, I hope, at least with the clients we work with, I see that happen. I'm sure there's other cases, but could we have that kind of grace that goes both ways? This is the dream for the world I wish we lived in. But reality is, Melissa, you should just stop showing up and ghost them and, don't call, don't write, and just make them worried that you're not even here anymore, that you moved out of town. Because that happens too. I mean, that is the opposite of courage, but that is what we're up against, right? And it's really frustrating. It happens.
I think there's also a scenario where, as these companies grow, we keep putting more on the employees that we have. And sometimes you have to cry uncle as an employee and say, I used to manage 20 accounts and now I'm managing 48. And we actually have more products and services that we're offering, and I'm unable to do this. And it's like, that's fair. I kind of knew that was coming. You're right. We do need to hire a second client service rep. It's like, oh, thanks.
Well, and then that's a growth opportunity for you. Well, what if we do that as a junior and I fold them in under me, I mentor them, and then this gives me an opportunity to actually practice, being a lead and having some team leadership. That can turn I'm outgrowing, we're outgrowing each other into an opportunity for loyalty and a growth path for an employee.
And what I hear as an owner on that other side of that is, you mean I don't have to train them? You're going to train them? We should definitely go down that path.
It takes all types. Yes.
It does. It does. Okay. So I wrote down, I hope I wasn't clackety clacking on my keyboard too loudly as I was doing this, but here's some stuff I wrote down that I thought was really gold. Of course, the analogies around the devil, the wrong size pants, going to the gym and putting in the reps, the Swiss Army knife versus our specialized tool. Those were some of my most fun takeaways. Book recommendation, The No Asshole Rule. I love. A tip for us as leaders, that sometimes we're going to be the bad guy and we just have to accept that and do it because it's the right thing to do for the business, which then benefits the employees who get to keep working here because we don't have to file bankruptcy. Okay, and I have two others. One, termination should never be a surprise. Never should be a surprise. We have to tell people. You said communication is always the answer. I have a friend who uses this quote, the biggest fallacy about communication is that it has occurred.
Yep.
And it's like, we think we've communicated. I actually had a team tell me about an owner who wants to give performance feedback, but she's so nice that they don't get the memo. So she thinks she's communicating. They're not hearing what she's sharing. And so nothing changes. And that's frustrating. And then last but not least, your team knows before you do that there's an issue. And often until that person's gone, you don't hear the full breadth of what's been going on. That then only gives you validation that you were nervous about before.
Yep.
So
I will add one more.
yeah.
And it's interesting because I really believe this to my bones. And somebody else said this to someone else in the room yesterday. Yesterday was my Vistage day, my CEO peer group, and I heard one leader validate another leader who was saying, I feel like this, it feels funny in my gut, but I'm not sure. Is this right? Should I be feeling this way? Should I not be feeling this way? And the other person said to him, first of all, yes, you should feel weird, and it's valid. Your feelings are valid. So all of that to say, I think we often question ourselves. Is this right? Am I crazy? Do I have unrealistic expectations? Trust yourself, trust your gut. If you get the ick, it's for a good reason.
Yeah. Trust your gut. It knows what's up.
Yep.
And stop questioning yourself, because your immediate reaction is usually the right one. Should we question ourselves? Yeah, but then go back to the original intent. Where did it come from? I probably wasn't wrong. So, Katie, I feel like we could have spent 3 hours having this discussion. We will continue to have these discussions as sidebars, but it's been so fun to have you on You've Got People Problems today. If someone wants to communicate with you at Growthwise, what's the best way to contact you?
LinkedIn is a fun channel. I mentioned early on in our interview together, I love posting a little controversy. All of my content, for the most part, is targeted towards business leaders. So a lot of these kinds of conversations and real world examples of what we see and kind of little nuggets of advice. So Katie McConnell Olson on LinkedIn, or Growthwise Search Partners on LinkedIn. You can find me through both of them. Give me a follow, and my contact information is there.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm Melissa Ortiz with Activate Human Capital Group. Also, LinkedIn is probably a great space. My maiden name, Yerxa, is probably the easiest way, because there are lots of Melissa Ortizes. So Melissa Yerxa Ortiz, Yerxa, and Activate Human Capital Group is also a great place. So thank you, Katie. I look forward to having you on the podcast again.
Thanks so much.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of You've Got People Problems. If you got something out of the conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with the other leaders in your network, because let's face it, we all have people problems. You can watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast app. But either way, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.